Hello and welcome to the Be Elevated podcast. My name is John Spechtenhauser, and for those who want to join me in bettering ourselves, this is the place for you. I recently started a journey to get more out of my everyday life, and I would like to let you in on everything I am reading, learning, and experiencing on my journey to elevate my everyday life. Good morning and welcome to the Be Elevated podcast. I'm your host, John Spechtenhauser. This is the place where we talk about elevating our everyday lives, about knowledge we gained from reading books, what we can do to make our days better, more productive. If you want to have that in your life, this is the place to be. And I'm going to be talking to you about books that I'm reading. I'm going to be talking to you about stuff that I'm currently learning or interested in learning. And I'm also going to be talking about my adventure on applying these things to my life. And this is something that I told myself I wanted to do New Year's. And this is probably the one New Year's resolution I've actually kept on and am still doing. But it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of things you can learn from reading books. It is quickly becoming one of my passions. You know, people go to college and get all these sophisticated, crazy educations, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what happens whenever you want to actually just learn one thing? The best way to get that knowledge is by reading a book from somebody else who's written it. You avoid all of the crazy general education classes that the schools just want to get your money for. So anyway, get off my soapbox there. Anyway, so it's Saturday morning here and in Jacksonville, and it's actually a very wonderful morning, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. So I just wanted to kind of get you guys a heads up on my morning routine, and maybe this is something you guys do too. And if you do, let me know, and we can talk about it and kind of the way that it's helped you improve your day. But one of the things that I really have enjoyed doing lately is waking up early on Saturday and Sunday mornings. I know most people like to probably sleep in, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I try to get 8 hours of sleep a night, and I wake up around 6 o'clock in the morning. I try to wake up a little bit earlier than that, so I have time to make my coffee. But the reason I like to do this is because I actually enjoy reading outside, drinking coffee, and watching the sunrise. I know that sounds a little cliche, but in reality, it's really peaceful, and it's, gives me my alone time. It lets me be in my thoughts. It gets me an opportunity to do what I want to do, which is read. Like I've said in my last podcast, I have a 2-year-old son, so and I have a wife, so a lot of my time is devoted to that. So waking up before everybody else does in the house gives me a little bit of time to do those things that I enjoy doing. And if you guys have ever had the opportunity to wake up, drink a cup of coffee, and read while the sun is rising, I highly recommend it. I like to sit outside and you listen to the birds chirp. You just kind of listen to what's going on around you, and it's very peaceful. The atmospheric pressure is very low, so that way, sound travels a lot more, and it's amazing. So if you guys haven't done that, I highly recommend it. It's really peaceful. I can't stress that enough. But anyway, so I told you guys I would talk to you about some of the things that I'm learning. So here we go. I decided to pick up this book. I don't know how many people read Bill Gates's blog at all. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft. Anyway, he has a blog called Gates Notes, and I really like it because it kind of inspired a little bit of what I'm doing here, is just talk about what I'm learning and stuff like that. And I think it's really interesting. I don't think enough people do that, which is why I'm inspired to do this, because Bill Gates is obviously a very intelligent guy. So I'm like, why not, right? And I've been reading a lot, and this is just something that I happened to stumble upon a few weeks ago, and I really like the idea. But while reading his blog, he had mentioned something about one of the books that he had read in the past, and that he really likes it and obviously recommends it. So I decided to pick it up too, because I've always been kind of interested on the subject, and it's meditation. A lot of people, successful people, claim that they meditate, and I kind of wanted to know the benefits of it. The book that I'm currently reading, and the one that Bill Gates recommends, is The Headspace Guide to Meditation and Mindfulness: How Mindfulness Can Change Your Life in 10 Minutes a Day. And so it talks about, switching off after work. It'll help you fall asleep at night, feel less anxious, sad, or angry, control your cravings, and find a healthy weight. I am very excited. This morning I actually started this book, and wasn't able to get too far into it before my son woke up. But so far it's pretty good, and I'm excited to share with you guys on a later podcast on how I feel about this book and actually applying it to my life and how it's changed my life. Because I hear that's one thing that meditation really does, is change your life in positive ways. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. Anyway, so I wanted to get into what I really wanted to talk about in this podcast, and that is the book, The Everyday Millionaires, by Chris Hogan. And for those of you who don't know who Chris Hogan is, he is a Ramsey personality. For those of you who know who Dave Ramsey is, and those of you who don't know who Dave Ramsey is, I highly recommend you guys look him up. He is great. He is pretty much where I learned most of my financial principles, and and they're very good financial principles. We can talk about that in a later podcast because I have read pretty much all of his books. But anyway, going away from the topic here, Everyday Millionaires. So, like I said, this book is written by Chris Hogan. He also has a book called Retire Inspired, which he wrote before The Everyday Millionaires. But one thing that's kind of fascinating in American culture is the how do you explain it? The millionaire lifestyle. What we're portrayed, or what is portrayed on TV, is not at all what it actually is. Not everybody is the Kardashians, Kanye West, Jay-Z. Congratulations to Jay-Z for reaching billionaire status, by the way. That's awesome. That's hard work right there. But anyway, so this book kind of takes away some of the myths, and there's a lot of stories in this book that talk about how just average people become a millionaire and what the definition of what a millionaire really is. So one of the things that I will go ahead and start, the American dream is alive. That's one of the first things that you're going to go through in the book. And it is very much alive. And one thing I like about this book is it goes through and maps out why it is still alive. And basically, you need to suck it up and take action, take responsibility for your actions, past and future. So that's one thing it's kind of a wake-up call, especially for people who are in their mid-30s, early 40s, starting out. It's important to get your retirement going. But anyway, it talks about how we've been lied to. It is possible for the average Joe to be a millionaire. For those of you who don't know, a millionaire is defined as $1 million net worth. What does that mean? What you own minus what you owe. So, for those of you who are debt-free, if you have a house completely paid off or whatever, and your house is worth $200,000, and you have $800,000 sitting in investments or anything like that, then that would be $1 million net worth. So it doesn't have to be $1 million sitting in your account. Would that be amazing? Absolutely, and that's what I hope everybody strives to work for. Actually, I hope you guys want to have more than $1 million. I know I hope to one day. That's why I've been educating myself on finances, because I want to be able to support my family and do the wonderful things that I've always wanted to do, and I hope you guys do too. But the best way to learn how to do that is by reading books. So that's why I wanted to start this podcast, is so you guys are aware. Anyway, so millionaire, like I said, defined by net worth. What you owe minus what you own minus what you owe. So that's it. It's not crazy. It's just simple math. And one thing, not one thing, another thing about this book, it goes into the myths that we've been told. I'm not going to go over every single myth because then there would be no reason for you to read the book. So I'm just going to go over some of the ones that I think were kind of important. One of the myths are millionaires didn't earn or they don't deserve their wealth. I guess that is it's kind of a crazy thing to think that, because one of the things that it talks about in this book is, I don't know the exact statistic, but the majority of millionaires in this day and age are self-made. They didn't inherit their money. They didn't win the lottery or anything crazy like that. They did it with hard work. And I think if you do that, you definitely deserve the wealth. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that people are just handed money, they've been inherited millions of dollars, and that's absolutely not true. Another myth is wealthy people make risky investments. And like we just talked about in the Intelligent Investor podcast, is that's not true. Most of them invested in index funds, mutual funds, and stuff like that. Blue chip stocks like your Microsoft, Apple, things that are very stable. Not things like Bitcoin. As crazy as that sounds, everybody was on the Bitcoin thing for a while. How are you going to invest in something that doesn't exist? There's no physical evidence of Bitcoin exists. It's just imaginary. And it's really what it is. And I'm not going to put my hard-earned money into something that doesn't exist. So index funds, mutual funds, that's what most of these people do, and they do it through their 401k or IRA. They also have brokerage accounts as well, but the majority of them do it through their employer-sponsored 401k or an IRA. So there's that. And another myth is wealthy people have high-paying jobs. That's not true either. You can read further in that book, but that's not true. Most people are not these C-suite executives, doctors, lawyers, anything like that. Actually, none of those are even in the top 3 professions of millionaires, believe it or not. So I'm excited for you guys to read that. I'm not going to tell you what that is. I don't want to spoil it. So one of the reasons why people have this misconception that, if you make more money, you have more money. That's not true. You'd be really surprised at how many people make millions of dollars a year and they spend all of it. They spend all of their money. What are they spending it on? They're spending it on fancy cars. They're buying their Porsches, their Lamborghinis, materialistic things, their expensive watches, expensive suits, and big $1 million mansions. Granted, that's not everybody, but we've been grown in this materialistic culture, this capitalist culture, where people just want to buy things for the status. And whenever people make more money, they think that they can afford more things, which is true, but they're not saving any of their money either, which therefore does not make them a millionaire. Also, if you make $1 million a year, that does not make you a millionaire. You still have to have that money on hand in some sort of an investment or in your house or something like that, not something that depreciates in value, such as a car. So there's that. So one thing that this book does point out as well, people need to stop making excuses and own their decisions that they make. One of those things are live on less than you make, which is kind of what I just touched on. People like to just blow their money, use credit cards for things that they can't afford. And I do understand. I've been in this situation where life happens, especially as young adults, such as myself. You get married young and you never really had any formal education on finances, which is one of the things I feel like our school systems are failing. And that's why, a lot of people get into the trouble that they're in finances because they just don't know. Once you get out of high school, people think, oh, I'm 18, I'm going to go ahead and apply for a credit card. That's what I did. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life. So live on less than you make, only spend the money that you have, and preferably put most of that back into savings. Because if you don't have to use your credit cards, guess what? You're not putting your income into paying somebody back. It's hard, very hard to make any progress on building wealth whenever all of your income is tied up on making payments on things that you probably don't need, such as a really nice car, right? You don't need a nice car, just get something that gets you from point A to point B. That's really what's more important. Once you actually have the money to buy a nice car, then definitely do so. But you don't need to do it when you can't afford it. And if you do need to take out a car loan, this is my personal recommendation. Don't get it for more than 36 months, and make sure that it's not, I would say, I don't know. I'm not going to put a recommendation on that, but try and pay it off as fast as you can. 36 months is pretty good. You're going to save yourself on interest. You're going to save yourself another 3 years of paying on your car too. I think most people get 72 months nowadays, which is crazy. You're paying so much interest to the bank, and that's 6 years of just holding on to a car payment. That's crazy. Anyway, that goes on to stop making excuses and owning your decisions. And one thing, you need to be goal-oriented. This book talks a lot about being goal-oriented. What you do today will affect your future goals that you have. So stop the credit cards, stop all that stuff now. If you want to have a successful financial future, you need to start taking action right now. And this book helps you and draws a map on some of the things that you can do right now. And for those of you who haven't discovered who Dave Ramsey is, I definitely recommend the book The Total Money Makeover, because that literally draws a map. It draws a map on everything that you need to do. This book is more of a follow-up to that, I guess, but still very good, and I really wanted to talk about it. If you want to get yourself on the right path, do The Total Money Makeover, and then it'll help you set up your future goals. But just remember, what you do now affects what's going to happen in the future. This book talks about some of the things that everyday millionaires actually do. The average millionaire pays off their house in 10.2 years. And most of them don't live in mansions. Most of them live in a average community where the average house is about $200,000. If just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you have to live like it. Most people are millionaires because they keep their money and they don't spend it on needless things. They pay off their house in an average of 10.2 years. Why is that important? One, they're getting that mortgage knocked out. Most people get a 30-year mortgage. I don't know how many people have done the math on the interest you're going to pay on a 30-year mortgage. But definitely, the earlier you pay it off, the less money you're going to pay. If you're paying off your house in 10 years, as opposed to 30 years, you're probably saving anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 on interest over that time frame. Not even kidding. Do the math. If you guys don't know how to do the math, I don't know how to do the math, so I have an app on my phone that does it. You can definitely do that. Most banking apps actually have that available. And most millionaires, they work hard, okay? They're intentional with their goals. They know what they want, and they do what they need to do to get there. If you have a dead-end job, these people, they leave their dead-end jobs, and they get a job that they can actually advance in. Not all of them, of course, but these are just some things that you could do. But they work hard. They're hard workers, and they understand the value of their time, and they save their money because they realize that their time is important, just as money is. And they wake up early, such as I talked about earlier at the beginning of this podcast. It's one of the things that several books that I've read have actually mentioned, is waking up early. They wake up early before they have to be at work, so they have that alone time. They're able to get their thoughts, their days together, get their goals in line, and make sure that their mental clarity is there and ready for the day. It's very important. I highly recommend it. Also, most millionaires exercise regularly. A healthy mind and a healthy body are what you need for success. Okay, and the way to get there is exercise and knowledge. Those are some of the ways to do that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to share these podcasts with you guys, is because I want to share this knowledge that I'm learning, and without giving too much away, because I want you guys to do some of the footwork here on this. And the overall goal is consistency. Okay, you want to do all of these things consistently. Okay, just like you want to set up your savings, you want to do it consistently. You want to pay yourself before you have to pay your bills. I know that concept sounds crazy, but if you don't put your money in a savings account, that money is going to walk out of your account before you even know what happens to it. So pay yourself first, all the time, no matter what. I promise you cannot go wrong. Don't be unrealistic. You obviously don't want to set your whole paycheck in savings if you have bills, but you need to map out a budget and consistently pay yourself first. You need to consistently invest no matter what age that you are. There's no excuse, because if you don't start now, then you're going to, time is just going to pass by. And what have you been doing in that time? If you're 60 years old, still put money back, okay? You may not be a millionaire, that's fine, but you're going to be better off than you were if you didn't do anything at all. And that goes into owning your decisions, okay? So you're never too late to start. You may not become a millionaire, but you will be better off than if you didn't do anything at all. And you need to do it consistently. Consistently wake up in the morning. Consistently gather your thoughts. Exercise. Do not go more than 3 days without exercise. That's just a pretty common role that I've seen. And that's what I recommend. Do not go more than 3 days without exercise. This is something that I've been trying to do this year. And I've actually lost a lot of weight doing that. And I feel amazing. But not to get off track. But these are just things that everyday millionaires do. So now that you guys have a little bit of the knowledge that everyday millionaires do, I highly recommend this book. And I even recommend reading Retire Inspired before you read this book. But this book is great. Chris Hogan does a very good job of narrating everything. There are a lot of good stories in here. Actually, I kind of want to read some of the stories. They're short, but these are just kind of proof that anybody can become a millionaire. So I'm going to read a few of these for you. These are just on the back cover. So here we go. One is, I don't feel or act like a millionaire. I go to work every day in a blue-collar industry. We've been saving and making wise decisions with our money for decades. We sat down and one day realized that we were millionaires. This guy's name is Jerry. He's worth $2.3 million. If you read the inside of this book, these stories go more in depth. These are just what's on the back cover here. Here's one. I've been a single mom for 27 years and have built almost all my wealth during that time, even on one income. I did it through discipline and consistency and having a loving, caring family who convinced me I would make it through. See, discipline and consistency, guys. This is some of the things that I talked about, and it's right here in this little snapshot of this story. And I'm going to do one more, all right? I raised 3 children as a single mom. I remember not having enough money to buy groceries and pay the electric bill. Despite those challenges, I had a tremendous work ethic and was determined to make a better life for my family. I do not believe in or support a victim mentality in any way, shape, or form. Her name is Sherry, and she's worth $1.6 million. So guys, see, it's all about owning your decisions and making the decision that you want to actually do something. Don't have the victim mentality. Take ownership for yourself. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I have for this book. I highly recommend it. Chris Hogan is a #1 national best-selling author. Once again, his book is Chris Hogan, Everyday Millionaires, How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. I highly recommend this book. Once again, I want to thank you guys for listening to the Be Elevated podcast. I would like to, one more time, highly recommend the book, Everyday Millionaires by Chris Hogan, How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. Next time on the podcast, I want to discuss the book that I've read and has inspired me to do pretty much a lot of the things that I've already talked about, such as waking up early and getting my thoughts together and stuff like that. The book is called Start. Punch Fear in the Face, Escape Average, and Do Work That Matters by John Acuff, I think his name is. He's another Ramsey personality. I happened to stumble upon this book on the Dave Ramsey website, and I decided to give it a try. And it's a very good book, another one that I highly recommend, and I'm excited to discuss it with you guys on the next podcast. I hope you guys will be elevated and elevate your day.